Bonjour, bonsoir, bienvenue, dear friends. We are at the eve of a big day. This very same day, my mother was in full gestation in 1969. Remember, tomorrow is the big day. And for that, we brought an amazing lady for you to discover. You've touched her, you've felt her, you've seen her through her amazing design over the last 45 years. She's one of the most iconic lady in the world of label design. Not only wine, spirits, and many other things. Today we'll focus on wine with her. She knows how to listen, she knows how to feel, she knows how to sense the energy of a place, what we call terroir, and she really gets it all to the point that with the entrepreneur, the owner, the vineyard manager, the winemaker, she's designed one of the most amazing label in the world. Her name, Susan Pate. She's with me. I cannot wait for you to understand what is behind those great wines. It's a label and a great lady. Look at this, Susan. It's coming out. It's coming out. I need more muscles.
Here we go.
I'm intimidated. Whoa! Look at this.
Lovely, lovely.
Well, what a pleasure to have you on the show.
I'm thrilled to be here.
All the honor is ours. So let's have a toast.
Thank you.
To your incredible career in design.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Dear friends, we wanted Susan to try a Napa Valley Rosé.
Oh, it's beautiful. Woo.
What do you think?
I love it.
Tell us more. It's the Carneros side of Napa Valley.
Yes.
Magnificent Pinot with a hint of Chardonnay, but mainly Pinot. And dear friends, for Susan, it's the famous 2017 vintage, and it's the very unique Surrealist packaging that we'll talk about later.
I love the wine and I love your package.
Thank you. Well, coming from you, this is like Jeff Koons or Picasso or Salvatore Dali telling you they like your painting. I'm frazzled. So Susan, how did it all start? I mean, you come from the Midwest.
I come from the Midwest, Oak Park, Illinois, home of Ernest Hemingway and Frank Lloyd Wright.
That's right.
And my mother is a designer, sculptor, painter, multimedia talented artist. And so I grew up in a house where projects were always underway. And I did docent work at the architectural studio and home of Frank Lloyd Wright. In Oak Park, we have like 30 buildings there that he did. And so I graduated from Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, as a design fine art major. And came to California after I graduated, took a little trip to Europe, and then came to California for my first adventure out into the world.
So who got lucky to capture those beautiful blue eyes that you have?
Well,
was it a love affair that took you to California?
No, it was just heading out in the summer of love.
Oh,
right. And from the Midwest, super conservative, super. I had really never tasted real wine because they didn't drink it back then.
Even your mother, sculpting or painting, was not drinking at the same time?
No, she wasn't. A very conservative community. So I arrived in San Francisco, and a nice young man asked me out to dinner.
What a surprise. I bet you at the moment you put your suitcase down.
Well, I remember the restaurant was called the Summer House, I think. Anyway, we had a lovely dinner, and I had my first taste of Cabernet Sauvignon. And I went, what is this? This is amazing. And when I thought of wine, I didn't think of anything. I mean, what did we have in Chicago? Mogan David? I don't know what.
Hey, did it create the first kiss? Did it help
that was
for
a
him
lot
to
of
seduce?
years ago. I'm not sure, but I think the love started for the wine. I don't know necessarily for that nice young gentleman, but I then decided to move out here. I'd had a couple job offers that I was kind of heading to. And so I got an apartment in Pacific Heights and went to the Safeway down there and saw they had 9 different kinds of lettuces. I graduated from college and I went to dinner and all kinds of things, and I thought there was only iceberg lettuce.
Maybe in Chicago at the time.
Yeah, so really right off the bat, I was interested in food and wine. And I started, cruising the wine shelves, and then just trips up to Napa, and also going to, farmers markets, and the bounty we have here is incredible. So as far as a beautiful experience to have access to such gorgeous food, and from work coming home, 90% of my life I've cooked the dinner and used it as a daily opportunity to celebrate life. So always prepared beautiful food with beautiful food. And
well, talking about
wine.
the beautiful food and wine, Susan, share with us a wild story of the summer of love. Because, dear friends, when you came at that time in San Francisco, Berkeley, Oakland, that was the time to be here. Today is nice, of course, but give us a few funny stories that we should always remember when we think of you. Summer of love in San Francisco.
Well, coming from my conservative background, I had never seen a man with long hair. And I went, oh, look, that must be a hippie. And then I met friends, and I got a job. I had a job before I went back and did my fine art thing in Chicago. And people were on drugs and I didn't realize it. And I'd be talking to someone and face down in the plate, and I go, there are most unusual people here.
Did they make them better artists?
Well, there was a very expressive art community.
Yes.
With a lot of extremely unique, different, exciting points of view and media and everything else.
That's well said, point of view. It's a good way to say different ideas. Yeah.
So, and the music was extraordinary, and I had a number of extraordinary experiences there or here. I went back to Chicago that first summer, and I did a couple of fine art shows, and I did very well. So I came back with the passions that you have. And I was just drawn. I didn't know anybody here. And I set up a studio.
Wow! So you started your own business.
Well, because of my first almost year here, I wanted to be involved in the wine industry. So I thought, well, I'll use my art background, and I knew how to make prints. So with my money that I made from my art show, or 2 art shows actually, I bought a 60-inch vacuum silkscreen press and went to United Vintners that had just opened their facility on 4th and Brannan, and went in and said, I want to make posters for the wine industry.
Wow, very cool. Yeah. Very entrepreneurial.
And well, I started working with them like the next day, and then I worked with them for 8 years as an independent, but I was project after project. And at that time, United Vintners was a collection of maybe 30 wines from the families up here that were gathered together as United Vintners to market their wines.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had worked on all 30 brands,
Wow.
which was great experience, from Beaulieu
Mm-hmm.
up at the top, and Lejeune, and down to Foxfire. So I did the pop wines: Jacques Bonnet, Cold Duck, Key Largo, Bally High, Annie Green Springs, and then on the other end, these high-end wines at the time that were high-end, but there were some lovely wines, and I got to know a number of the families and people that were involved. And I also did work for architects.
Mm-hmm.
And so the architect that did Domaine Chandon, Rockrise, Dermot, Mountjoy, and Amos.
I see.
So they were...
It's a good, easy name to remember.
Moët Chandon, or Moët, was making the first foreign investment.
And it was a
into
family.
wine.
It was the de Brière family at the time,
Yes,
right?
Count Frédéric Chandon de Brière.
That's right.
Which I got to know very well. And Count Ghislain de Voguet, Marquis Marquesa Hennessy, Alain Chevalier, the finance person, but a great group
Yes.
of people. And they were so excited to be in Napa Valley. And I had done a poster for Lejeune Champagne, a beautiful woman who was in my apartment, and dressed in white on white. It was very clean, very simple, very elegant. And United Vintners just thought, wow, their stuff was kind of tacky and all. So they were asked to recommend a designer for the for the Domaine Chandon package.
Mm-hmm.
So they recommended me, and then Moët did a design competition, and I won the competition, and continued to work for them for 20 years.
Wow.
And all the packaging and stuff are like I wouldn't say the remnants, the logotype and the shooting star, which I did for the Chandon Club, but I worked with the architectural signage, a great opportunity, big deliveries of these containers full of winemaking accoutrements and the history of winemaking. And I worked on the museum that was initially at Domaine Chandon, and got to know Philippe Gentil, and he only spoke French, and I was introduced to him as his designer, and he said, "Oh, come, yeah." A lot of sign language. I had, elementary French, and so he wanted me to, do the calligraphy of the menu, which I did, and he just, he was so happy with it. But then he told them he wanted me to come every day and do the calligraphy for the menu, which I couldn't do. But that was just a wonderful relationship. And I worked a lot with Edmond Maudière,
Mm-hmm.
who was their global, Moët nose making
sure.
champagne. And he was extraordinary. And I went to
you got to meet a lot of amazing people.
Yeah, Chateau Ovier with him for the history and the history of Champagne. And what was very enlightening was a book by Patrick Forbes, and it was about the Moët family and Pauillac and Champagne. And I was up at OVA, and I was doing background and research, and a few things came to mind. They wanted a package to last at least 150 years or more. They wanted something that was, they had tried to have...
Timeless.
They had tried to have a number of designers in France, but they were way too French or too themey for California. So they wanted something that kind of tied it together, very classical. And that was my job. So the things that I kind of grabbed a hold of was at OVA, Dom Perignon said, quick, he bottled some green Chardonnay, and the glass atmospheres were not anywhere where they are today, technically. So the bottle exploded. He had the wine, and he goes, come quickly, I'm drinking the stars. I go, a star, it's French, it's American. And also, I had, with Fred Chandon, he had a Rolls Royce with this green color.
Yes, that's right.
And so I used a number of elements, and also the first one that kind of had a money look. The original label has an engraved background to it.
Yeah.
And so...
so you did those as well.
I did all of their...
An American lady from the Midwest moving to California, working for the French. That's pretty cool. I served you another wine just for another toast.
Ooh, lovely.
Because we'll keep that.
Fabulous.
Did you really like it?
I did really like it. I loved it.
Well, we'll continue with more wines.
Okay.
But, dear friends, you are very fortunate because Susan prepared an incredible history throughout her involvement with some iconic personalities of the wine world. And she's going to walk you through history thanks to her phenomenal design. But before that, I wanted to shock her, which is obviously impossible. We thought the zebra, beckoning, impulsive, and unbound packaging, very Cavalli to Ralph Lauren to a little Dolce & Gabbana idea would bring her to the feline that she is. So we'll see when we try the leopard in a moment. But this is Napa Valley, 2016 vintage, from the heart of Rutherford, which obviously we're here in, and Santa Elena.
It is also lovely. Absolutely lovely.
Soft and elegant, and
sit back and enjoy this for the afternoon.
Well, we will.
Yeah.
We will.
Okay, here we go.
So I think what would be really fun for everyone, a lot of the packaging you've done, it's in every collector's cellar. So it would be great if you walk us through a few. What do you think?
Well, very timely and serendipitously for me, my experience in the wine industry, starting with United Vintners and then Moët Chandon, my clients were the pioneers of the Valley.
That's right.
And so how lucky could I be to have these phenomenal people? And you're a man of passion and
Can you feel it?
sensitivity.
What makes you think that I have passion?
Coming up your driveway and seeing the entrance here with
the apocalypse and the resurrection.
Yes.
I'm glad you appreciate it because some people, strangely enough, don't really know who Leonardo da Vinci are, who Michelangelo are, or who the great sculptors of those amazing sculptures are. So it's shocking. They say, why this woman with no head and wings? So we get sometimes some very interesting questions, but I'm so glad, obviously, and you appreciate the ideas.
The idea of art is, it's a communication.
Yes.
And there's a communication which hopefully creates an enduring, ongoing communication, which is there and will always be there because it's art. And so the interpretation of it, the acceptance of it, if it goes to your heart or not, it's everywhere. And so it's totally, out there and enduring.
And why is art so important? We do talent shows in our companies, and it was a lot of fun last week to award so many people. People have so many sides in themselves. So how did you yourself, before we move to this amazing chronology of history, how did you discover that you had such a talent, and how did you let yourself express it? Two different questions in one, because so many people I know are extremely talented. And I will name my two daughters, who are twins of 10. One there. She goes crazy and wild, and she's phenomenal at art. The other one, I think, is very, very good at assembling. And I would see her more in fashion, maybe. Whereas the other one, as a painter, sculptor, goes crazy. But they're both very good. One let go, and she discovering herself in a great way at 10 years
Lovely.
old.
Wow.
And how did you, and what advice would you give to everyone? Because we all have an art sensibility.
I think there are basic instincts that you gravitate for.
Yes.
And so therefore, if your focus is in that direction, then just putting your heart energy into that direction, it's constantly evolving, it's constantly opening up. And again, my childhood experience, I grew up with an artistic mother.
Yes.
And she created an artistic environment, and she made beautiful things. And so it's more, for me, a lifestyle. I love beauty. I love experiencing beauty. I love to make beauty. Whatever it is, I have a magnificent garden that, Mother Nature or Daddy Nature or whoever is, the major responsible partner. And I love, creating beautiful food and then have beautiful food with beautiful wine and
And you discovered it. Did your mother, in fact, and this is for all of us parents or grandparents in some cases, or not yet parents, did your mother positively encourage you as you were creating things? Because she was herself a great artist. Because often, you were 18, you went to art school, as you said, and then you did all that. But what was the...
Absolutely. And for a period of about 17, 18 years, she was the designer of Silvestri Art Company in Chicago and did the mechanized Christmas windows.
That's right.
Which people would stay, in the cold in Chicago and wait, lines going around the block to see her work. And there would usually be about 8 to 12 windows. And she only sold one line to each, it's like May DNF in New York, Shilatos in Denver. It would be the big department store in the city. And they were all choreographed to music, and did a story first and then would sculpt the characters. And then they would have a whole department that would cast the characters in resin. And then another whole department that would cut them apart and mechanize them and put it.
So fun.
And all of the finishing of they would have these characters that needed to be painted, furred, dressed, and all of that was done by hand. And so she had a staff of 30 artists, and I did freelance for and weekends.
That's my dream, by the way.
I was a painter.
Wow.
And I had a job when I went to school, and I hadn't finished it up, of doing 500 faces, painting the eyes, and people were saying, there's a girl at the end of the hall, But anyway, that's a side story.
But so fun. So you were really encouraged. And
I was very much
She believed in you.
She believed me, and she also, said, wow, that you did this really well, and she was serious. It was.
And when you didn't, did she tell you too? You didn't do it too well.
She only told me I did it well.
That's great.
Mom, did I do this well? No. So, in fact,
positive reinforcement and all that. In often, I know people who left art, did a traditional world, then came back, discovered themselves, became incredible artists because they got disappointed by some comments, so they felt very vulnerable. It's not easy. You got to have a thick skin as an artist.
My shows in Chicago were art, and people paid. When I got to California, I became a commercial artist because I worked for people to do projects for them to get paid. So that's the transition. So what I ended up being from the beginning was a fine commercial artist.
Yes.
And I feel that has been to my benefit because I didn't go through a standard corporate or design studio process of how you get jobs done. I did everything from getting the job, to designing the job,
That's right.
to doing all the work. And because of my art background, making prints, I shot all my film. I made all my screens. I could do the whole thing myself. And then transferring it when you get numbers, large numbers, I needed to go to, commercial lithography. And so in my career, I use all the medium. I use engravings. I use all the different styles of
Well, I'm going to apply for a job by the end of our interview. I'm going to go as an apprentice in the famous studio of Susan, International Design.
I have to tell you, I gave birth to my apprentice, and she was 1 day old because I had these jobs I needed to get done. So took her to my studio at 1 day old. And she's
with you now?
She's still there today.
Fantastic. Yes. So you design mother-daughter together?
We do. We have an organic toy line that we do. We're the first organic toy company in China. We have our partners, our financial partners.
So you design toys?
Toys and clothes.
What kind of toys?
Really fun, beautiful, for newborns to maybe 5 years. And
you see, Dylan has a naughty smile over there. He was, he wasn't sure what kind of toys. That's why I specified.
Okay. Well, if you have little kids, or if you're a grandparent and have little kids, it's called Apple Park.
Yeah.
And it's 100% organic. We have farmers, organic farmers all over the world we use. And our stuff is beautiful. It's fresh. It's
it's organic.
And it's organic. No synthetics, no polyester. And it's very loving. We've got the Apple Park. I did like 5. I'm on the 5th. 4 books for kids.
What? I did not even know that. We should have brought the books. Well, it's got to be another line.
Okay.
And are those little plush animals and things too?
We do plush, and we kind of started out to do a high-end line because organic is extremely expensive. So we wanted the line to be as affordable as it could be without cutting the quality.
Of course.
And so we're very proud if you see it any place and pick up anything.
What's the coolest animal you have in the line? Do you have any leopards, tigers, snakes, zebras?
We have a chartreuse caterpillar.
I like that. Any felines? Because, I would have covered a chair and bought 100 and made a chair like the Campana brothers.
We have another line that is the same quality but much less expensive that is in Whole Foods, and we have a line. In fact, I'll send you these.
You know what I want to do? So I want to cover, when you came in, dear friends, we are in a phenomenal secret indulgence, so we cannot tell you where we are because it's a secret.
It's a very cool secret.
Thank you. And there's chairs that I'm covering with my daughters with hard glue on skeleton of chairs, like the Campana brothers in Brazil, who designed this amazing boa sofa that we have on Wapo Hill. And in addition, they had done, the Arch of Noé on a chair. So I'm redoing this idea, but differently than they did, because you inspire yourself. You don't copy. I don't like copying, but it's an inspiration. And we're having a blast, so maybe we should use your fabulous animals.
Okay, but they're made more they're more cartoony for the little ones.
I see.
Then the classic ones from Apple Park are 5 baby animals that live and play in Apple Park.
Nice.
And that's the idea is man working with nature to create a place of divergent.
Absolutely.
I will talk in any direction you lead.
But that's very impressive, dear friends. From design to entrepreneurship in toys to all the things you're doing, this is a big deal.
Well, I am blessed to have such wonderful clients and opportunities,
Yes.
and I think the secret that you have, that you know, and that I know, is that when you're going to do something, and so there's a problem, the solution for the problem, the inspiration for the problem, is found in the problem, and so you're looking at whatever you're doing. And you're not looking at the design books or at though someone did a chair. You're taking whatever information you have picked up and you're taking it to a new place, and it's coming from you.
That's right.
So-
And that's the fun, exciting part. Dear friends, again, we look always on our show for inspiration and great, passionate ideas. The solution is often in the problem, and I fully agree with that. So it's not so much of a complex equation to solve as long as we look at it with the right prism. And I agree with you. So Susan brought some, and we could talk for hours, of course, and I know you're all having a great time. Not as much as I have, and I am, because I'm right here. I'm feeling the
I'm
energy
having a
too.
great time.
The
right
magnetic
here, too.
energy of Susan. So Susan has been doing some of the most iconic designs. She mentioned United Vintners, which was Beaulieu Vineyards, and many others. She mentioned, of course, Moët Chandon, the Brière family, and many others in Europe. In America, she's done quite something for someone I love, of course, because as some of you know, I'm very close, or I was very close with Margaret specifically, Mondavi. So I don't know where you want to start in that sequence, because maybe this one, because this is really the beginning there, right?
The beginning was there was a party at the Wine Institute in North Beach, which is a block from my studio.
Yeah.
And I was invited to go with Count Frederic Chandon. And so we are at the reception, and he said, "Susan, would you like to meet Robert Mondavi?" And I said, "Sure." And at that time, all I could remember that I didn't really like his label. It was...
That's very fair.
And so, we introduced, and he said, "Would you call me in a year?" And, I said, "Sure, I guess." But I forgot. And so a year, 2 years, 3 years passed. And then I got someone contacted me who said, we're looking for you. Robert Mondavi's been looking for you for 3 years because they can't get this joint venture label done. And he said he met somebody that he knew could do the job, but he couldn't remember my name. And so...
but he could remember your blue eyes and your beautiful smile. I know that.
Thank you. He was thinking of the French Connection because of working with Baron Philippe de Rothschild. So the marketing person from Domaine Chandon ended up working at Opus. And they were in another conversation, and they kept thinking that Bob was losing his whatever had maybe I was a figment of his imagination. So he described this person again, and Stu Harrison said, "Oh, that's
How
Susan."
do you think he described you?
I don't know. I hope it was kindly.
I'm sure you have some ideas.
Well, it was primarily because he thought I could get the job done, I think. So I went over to the Robert Mondavi Winery, had lunch with Mr. Mondavi and Margaret, and took some samples of some wine packaging. And so he said, "Well, I want you to meet da-da-da." So we met the people from Chateau Mouton, and they hired me to come up with the solution to this incredible joint venture, which was the first of its kind. And the wine had been made with the Baron and Robert, and they had no name for it, no label on it. And it sold, the first case sold for $24,000 with no label on it. And
So do we really need labels?
well, that's what they said. They just said this is the first major news event globally in the wine industry. And so it would be not like either of the two gentlemen to have a typewriter typed label on there. So I did concept work and showed them to the people here at the winery, to Robert Mondavi and his staff, and they liked what I showed. And the concept was that these two men.
I'm going to show both.
Okay, this is very recent. This one's just been out.
But those two men, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt,
Okay.
because you're telling us a great story.
These two men, each great visionaries, plus incredible energy, very much the energy that this special person has.
Thank you.
And the idea that Baron had been working on for years with Michel Baldin, his designer, and Michael Mondavi came in. He had a stack of labels that had been rejected, and the problem was two French and American, or whatever. I don't know what. So many people. Andy Warhol wanted to do this label, and yeah, can you believe? And Joe Montana, I think, wanted to do this label. So the problem was not getting people to do the label. Problem was getting a solution that was right for the two of them. So back to looking at the problem again. The spread of the grape was taking the grape, and a new city would be taken over, and they would put at the entrance of the city, they would put a two-headed god that signified a new beginning.
That's right.
And then the grapes were planted for all reasons, and therefore, our wine industry developed. So the idea of Baron Philippe had been making wine for 300 years, and so it's classical, traditional, historical, all of the working with the elements unique to the wines and making great wines. And Robert was more contemporary, state-of-the-art. He was off around the world finding the newest, latest thing and coming back to the winery and ceaselessly seeking out a better quality. And his goal, as we know, was to allow Napa wines to sit on the table of the great wines of the world. And he certainly did it. And we know 76 was it, the stories and all. But so the label ended up, I wanted it to be fine art on the label.
Congratulations. What a success. Huh? In its simplicity.
In its simplicity. And it's also East and West. And the art part of it, I wanted, like, definition of the Smithsonian. I asked them, and they said, well, at that time, lithography and commercial printing was done with a dot pattern technical, and I wanted it to be like a lithograph. So I actually developed a particle. This is too far a strain, but it's
a particle.
A particle that had a shoreline and could hold a lot of information. And so, but it was, and so I showed them, and they go, wow, I did a lithograph. And they said, that's great as far as the, being able to print this image.
And you drew it yourself.
This is,
obviously. This magical hand. You right-handed or left-handed?
I'm
both.
I'm kind of ambi, but I would draw with this. But I did a sketch of this. Robert sat down in a chair, and I did this, a pencil drawing, and then this was from a Mouton promotional book, but I put them together. And then, so anyway, just a little side story. I wanted to do this and say, you'll be the first wine label that it's fine art by the Smithsonian definition on your wine label. And it was Baron Philippe, who was the brilliant marketer to put art on the label and tie wine to art. And he had, you name it, Paul Klee, Picasso, the painters of the known painters of the time do a painting. He'd take a picture of the painting and put it on his Chateau Mouton label. So my idea was, instead of a picture of art, I wanted it to be art. So technically I could have made the film, but the time, board of directors said, that much money for something we can't see? And so that didn't happen. But I sent to all the film houses what I'd done, and it allows you to print, instead of 3 colors and making moires or rosettes, with my particle, you could print layer over layer. And so the first Opus prints I did that are over at Opus, those are like 8, 12 colors, one on top of another on a lithograph press. And so then here, now, let's jump to 05. 05, Michael Salacci at Opus called up and said, hey, Susan, the printers that's been doing the label has gone out of business, and we need to find a new supplier. So I said, well, we should take a look at everything. And so, with Chloe did a flip book, all the labels showing the little minuscule, because, if the type changes are mandatory copy changes. And so, it creeps up and makes little changes. And I said, Michael, look at this. And he goes, whoa. I said, it basically had the classic iconic type solution at that time, which is that people look at something that registers, and they don't really look at it, scrutinize it as you would, at first time. So anyway, long and short of it, 05, I told Michael, I said, you know what? This has become a commercial product now, and we could actually print them economically and get this fine. So
that
anyway,
means there's enough volume to print in the traditional sense.
And so the 05, if you take your glass and you put it down, you'll see there's no technical dot pattern in there from commercial.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was like...
Thank you for telling us. I did not know most of it, so this is a fascinating story. So why blue as an example?
The Baron, the color when that came to mind that was his, was blue for regal.
Of course,
so
the royal colors of France.
Yes,
I mean, needless to say.
Absolutely.
And then you did Overture.
This is recent.
And is it the base of the color reversed a little bit, or this is just the notes of the orchestra?
Actually, it is. If you were to go like this, you go 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a downbeat up. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And you did that with a pen or
you want
brush?
me to tell you my secrets?
Yes, every one of them. I want to see through those blue eyes and know it all. I'm here to extract the quintessential of the knowledge.
It's a combination of a wet brush.
That's right.
Yeah, and also just for movement of the line, to do studies with pen and ink that have like an osmoroid tip on it, because then you go thin to thicker, and
Japanese style,
and it makes more energy into the line.
Yeah.
So
so you did it first that way on a canvas, and then
no, it was not on.
1, 2, 3. Here's the label. Wait and see. You'll see some new packaging soon. Besides the leopard. Well, you thirsty in between, because I want to go to the Mondavi traditional one as well that you've done. But with that, a very traditional package as well. We cannot be more traditional than that.
This is scrumptious. It's it's, as Bob Mondavi would say, soft as a baby's bottom. And just elegant, gorgeous mouth all the way through. It's a beautiful wine.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful wine.
Well, listen to that. Only Baccarat.
Only
for Susan.
Baccarat. Yes, thank you.
Which is so exciting, though, is then you worked on his traditional label or the reserve style.
So with Robert, I worked with all of his wines, and at that time there was a, that's such a long story. How do I make it short? I helped him separate the different tiers of wine, and they made some really small adjustments. But and this goes way back to when. But remember when White Zinfandel came out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they were making it. I don't know what are in trade secrets or whatever, but they were making it for the house that came out with White Zinfandel. Bob was making this wine. He's going, look at how much they're making. We should be making this. Look at all that. And Margaret was saying, I don't know if it's real wine, Bob. And he goes, well, yes, look at people love it. And it's a good transition. You can start, it's easy to drink. And then you kind of get into the wine.
Mm-hmm.
So,
providing access to it.
So
yes.
I redid, I don't know where the first label came from, but Bob called him. He said, what's this? I can't
Here it is.
give it away. And I go, I don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Mondavi. And it turns out someone did something and whatever. And so anyway, I got it back, and it went through the roof, and it's still gone. It's just real popular.
Is that the die-cut label I love with the background?
The die-cut label is the Oakville label. And when I did, back to, let's go to the main brand and not do the side brands. So we talked about his label, and he was giving me the history of his label, and he said it's a woodcut label, and his name will come up in a moment. And I said, Bob, this isn't a woodcut. There's no lines in the shadow areas. If you have wood, if like you're doing a solid shadow, there'll be the grain of the wood in it.
That's right.
Or if it's a wood engraving, it'll be on the end of the piece of wood, but you'll still see the wood's impact in the print. And so I said, what's the most original label you have? And so someone came back with a old beat up bag from the attic or whatever, and it was a strike of the first original woodcut taped on the bag. And I said, I can work with this. And so I did handmade paper from the vineyard, took vineyard clippings, soil samples, the pumice, the leaves, all these things. I made handmade papers. They were gorgeous. Everyone, you could go on forever. They were gorgeous. So the idea was I wanted to do a natural decal, and so many people say you can't do it, can't be put on a bottle, all this stuff. And so I did the first die cut for the 87 Reserve to show what was special about Napa Valley. And I saw it one day. I was coming down 29, turned into the winery, and there was the fog coming over the crest.
Magnificent.
And I went, that's it. That's what makes this, the sunshine, and that's what makes this happen.
And this is one of my favorite labels of all. I need to tell you.
Oh, well.
I adore this one, and I purposely bought the wine and still have it.
Thank you.
I'm sure, Tim, you did an amazing job on the wine, and I know you did, but the label design, I think, is the most spectacular in the wine world. Because it speaks so much, the invitation to Napa Valley, as a beautiful image, but at the same time an invitation, saying, come through this arch by Cliff May to the hills, to the terroir, to the weather, to the sun peeking into the birds even flying over. So I think I could go on and on.
Well, we have taken all of the elements and put them into a new label that's going to be released this fall,
Oh,
and we were kind of bringing things back to more of the look and feel of
the past.
of the glory. Yes, but it's contemporary. It's forward moving and more moving. But we brought all of these elements together, and it's quite beautiful, quite simple. And we did for the Napa. Yeah, I don't know if I can talk too much about it.
No, you shouldn't.
Yeah, so,
because we should keep the surprise. But we have a few more minutes. There's one package I'd love for you to speak about is the Luce, because talking about obviously the legacy of Mondavi and those great partnership with other good friends of ours, the Frescobaldi.
Wonderful.
This was a spectacular package. So how did that come about?
They decided to come up with a joint venture, and there were many luncheons and meetings over this, and Margaret came up with the idea of Luce.
That's right.
Because it's the light, the sunlight coming into the grape leaf to make the grape. It's the fetus. It's the light of a fetus, and so it was beautiful, beautiful name with a beautiful background to it. So let's see. I need to shorten this. I'm going to do it real short. So I didn't know that they were talking to anybody else, and neither did the Frescobaldis or Mondavis. But then they had a presentation of the three brothers, the Marchesi brothers, and I did a sketch, a pencil sketch, and taped it on the bottle, and I thought it was going to be something worked together to develop. And so they show up for the meeting, and there was like 50 different bottles on the table, all different designs, some full printed, everything else. And and I went, whoa, I didn't know this. And I said, hey, let me work on it. Let me tighten it up and show you. And so Bob had a cold. And so his secretary and I went up to Wapo Hill and just walked in with the Marchesi Frescobaldi, called Bob and said, I just got back, and the other two brothers had seen it. And he said, I walk into this table, and here are all these bottles for the Luce. And he said, I looked at him, and he said, really, there's only one in here that speaks to me. I'm listening to the conversation right now. I'm sitting at the table, and I'm hearing Mr. Mondavi's side. And it's just on a piece of paper taped on the bottle. And I went, And what it was is the symbol, the Marchesi, who was not Lodovico, that's the son, Leonardo, he said, we have been looking at this symbol our whole lives. The church there, Espiritu Santos, has an altar, and this symbol came in the 1300s when a lot of wars going on in Italy, and so the idea of this symbol was to unite people under the risen Christ and stop knocking off the other, families. So this appeared. And this I just found out through research. This symbol appeared in the parks, in the library, in the public places,
very much
and
so.
they had it, throughout their public places. And so I thought, well, and also because when two people get married or two families get married, they have the heraldry of these two entities coming together. And that's the shields and all, that's the background to how those things evolve. So I did, one side Mondavi, one side Frescobaldi, and then did the sun. And so they said, you have to come over because we have been looking at this symbol our whole life. And so I go over to Florence. And they have the palace that they live in, and then it's attached. It's like the corner of a big city block, kind of. And so that they have their apartments, and they open up to take communion in their apartment, and they look down at this altar. And here's this. So I go, I need to
It was meant to happen.
I said, I need to take a picture of this. And so the guy comes in and he goes, he's blessing me and purifying me, so I could go in and take a picture of this symbol. And so then this is a drawing. This was originally pen and ink drawing. And it I think represents them. It's sort of like their Opus One for Italy, because it's sold at the high end for international markets, and it's out there, in the public. So
spectacular presentation. And now maybe for our last one, because I know everybody is going to dinner shortly, you work for another iconic man and family. So I don't know who you want to present as one of the last one. I know Dylan is going to sweep through so everybody can see all those great package that we have here. But this is another fantastic design, I would say.
These are all classics that have been around for many decades now, and hopefully they will ride on through time and carry the messages that are embodied in them from the creator of these wines. And Bill Harlan, who was a very good friend of Robert Mondavi and mentor him, has Harlan Estate, which was the first package. But no, it wasn't the first package. Bill had Maryvale, and so I've done all of his wine packaging since he first started, and then he did Harlan Estate. And I do have a story. These are really old. These are old, but this one, the Promontory, what is 2 years out? About it's the recent one. So when there's a long story. Bill is, when he's doing a project, he's very involved with. I mean, every micro dot. I mean, he's very, very involved, and so. This package, because again, I wanted it to be as artful and be art. And the problem was that I was having is you put the mandatory copy on a piece of art, and therefore it becomes commercial, and it's kind of like, So I did get, because I to the BATF, I said, well, how about can that be my front label? Because it's got all the mandatory copy, and they approved it.
Yeah.
So voila, it really opened the floodgates for designers to.
For sure.
Yeah.
Back label is the legal label.
Yeah.
Is the front label.
Is the front label. Yeah.
But great inspiration on a beautiful historical piece of art in many ways, right?
Yes. And that banknote, we have used that in his packaging, and then like in Bond, this piece, we did this one in the studio and put this together, and my daughter patiently pieced all this together because it has to come from you can't have an engraving with halftones in it. It has to be a black on white line, and then the distance of the lines and the thickness of the line determine your gray or middle tone areas. So she put this together, but we did it in our studio, and
no capsules.
And the Carneros package, which I don't have here, but when the Carneros opened, that your beautiful
sparkling, the Surrealist,
what was the second wine we had?
The Zebra.
The Zebra, yes, from Carneros.
Well, the first one was Carneros, the second Napa Valley, and the third Napa Valley.
Oh, I'm sorry, this one. Okay.
Yeah. She had to look at the labels. So labels are important.
Okay. Well, that growing area was a new growing area, and the gentleman who was there first, anyway. because of the unique
It's the
climate.
height.
We have sun here, and the wind and the cool for a Pinot and a Chardonnay grape. That terroir is very appropriate for it. Does a beautiful job. So I was called into Mondavi's, and they said they wanted me to put a snipe on the label to change it so it wouldn't be Oakville, and so I went down to see the property, and it's not Oakville, and Mitchell Klug was the vineyard manager, and he's driving around, and it was amazing what they were doing there. They were doing, they had a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, 25, 50-year plan to do natural wine growing, and it was a dairy farm, I think, before, and it had been denuded. So they planted the trees, because if the trees are there, then you get the raptors that are going to hunt the rodents. And
it's a whole ecosystem.
The whole ecosystem, and to restore the groundwater, and plant the good grasses next, so in between, so that the good bugs fight with the bad bugs, and sort the tap roots so the clay soil gets deeper roots, and then the trimming so the air. And the idea, Tim was working as the winemaker, was to bring out, Tim Mondavi, to bring out the individual character, personality of the grape. And so I was blown away, impressed. And that's where I made my handmade papers, because I wanted to do, let's recycle everything. Let's recycle the glass.
Yes.
Let's recycle the paper and make all the paper from the vineyard. And so, I did the natural decal, and I did soy-based inks. I did all that, those original labels, all the colors that are in the soil are in that original label.
Congratulations. Bringing the two together, or the three together.
And so that the package, speaks philosophically and visually and quality and all to the product inside. And the other thing that was happening at that time in the wine industry was the tin lead capsule was outlawed because it's super toxic. So I did a little research, and at that time there was something like 3 or 5 tons of lead capsules dumped in the soil. I go, oh my God! So the new replacements were made out of weird alloy, and they were like really dangerous. I would not open a bottle, and they were ugly, and you couldn't make them look nice. So so I thought, well, why do we have to have a capsule? So I took the capsule off, and then, these all have rings on them so that they can hold a capsule. So I designed the Carneros bottle with a beautiful punt, and with it, and I've done a number of bottles, but the first one was drip-less.
That's right.
It had a flat on the top, so you pour it, and it had a very clean finish. And
like a flying saucer, like a alien soucoupe volante.
And before that package, you send out to have your corks to the cork maker, and he'd stamp your name on it. But they weren't design elements; they were total functional. And so I didn't have a capsule. I go, oh, and to show a natural cork, I put graphics on it, and then I developed with Stefan Finca the wax cap top. Yeah. So we started making those. We worked with engineers and everything to.
So you're the creator of that famous bottle.
And the wax cap.
Wow.
Yeah, and
congratulations.
Our original wax cap biodegraded into a piece of oxygen and a piece of water, a drop.
So you're a true
environmentalist. Yes, I've been an environmentalist. Right at the beginning of my work, I was working with real estate developers a lot, and Artie Nayas, who did the Oakland Coliseum and Rocky Ridge and Glenbrook and up at Tahoe, a number of things. When we did the Orinda Wood project, it's called Orinda Woods, it was all first cluster housing, so you leave it all natural.
That's right.
And worked with Zach Stewart, to do naturalist landscaping, and they hydroseeded with the natural seeds, the hills and everything. And, and then I did a really nice book of all the characters that live there, that are still living there. And,
That's amazing.
And all
and they made it forever because of the environment. It's so healthy.
Yes. And so, so everything I've done, actually, that's why when I the recycled paper, that's mine. I worked with paper company to do the first recycled wine label paper, and the first to do the soy-based inks, and the environmental aspect is so critical. And I have another thing which I put. Did you read about the barrel?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, that's been a project. It's another passion project of several years now. But this is now into winemaking. I'm not a winemaker, but I certainly super appreciate winemakers.
Mm-hmm.
And my Geneviève is a very good friend of mine.
The best.
Yeah.
She was on our show. One of the first ever.
Uh-huh.
As early as last year in April. She was so fantastic.
She's so fantastic. She is.
We love you, Geneviève. We know you watching.
She is a stellar individual. And anyway, so a inventor from LA said, I would like to come and talk to you because I bought 140 acres up in Pine Mountain. I'm going to sell my business and I want to make wine. I love wine. That's what I want to do with the rest of my life. So he came up and he had these...
We've heard that story a few times. You even more than anyone.
I had these drawings, and the concept was a barrel, same fit on all commercial equipment, cleaning, everything, all aspects of it. And he's got like there's 50 patents on it, but inside there is a rack, like churning butter, okay? And you can drop in, there's access on the top. And so you can actually ferment whole red berries in there as easy as not, because you just dump them in the barrel. So this rack, you can draw, it takes a minute. You can put your stave in or out, and you can make blends. It's repeatable. Everything is controlled. There's a miscible little diaphragm and the bung hole that you can take. We have one that, this has all been tested, UC Davis, everything else, that replicates a French oak barrel.
Wow.
And if you want more or less, you can change the degree of oxygen. But the barrel, it oxygenates the wine because of the oxygen in the wood. And so first year you get full impact of the wood. Next year, less. Next year, a lot less. And then you think like fourth year is just a residue, but it's really oak neutral. Mm-hmm. So the idea of the barrel, and because so many things, water, the barrel saves 90% water and 90% wastewater.
Wow.
And the wood, we've got one French oak, he'll know this, but one French oak tree averaged 2.4 barrels. And the rest is not that it's not thrown away. I mean, they use it or whatever. But you figure that tree took 125 years to grow.
Minimum.
And it takes 50 tons of CO2 out of the atmosphere in its life. Okay. Then.
So let's invent something where we don't need barrels.
Yeah. Well, this is the highest quality stainless steel barrel, and that one tree can provide the wood for 333 of the modern cooperage barrels. And you also can, if you have a large volume and you love your barrel, we can also take that barrel and reuse.
So you're part of that business as well.
I'm a partner. I'm a founding partner.
Wow.
Yeah. So the
what an entrepreneur. What's your
No.
passion, Susan?
God, life every day is incredible. These barrels, we've been using people. I had several months ago. I took some of the wines, and I had 9-10 top winemakers, including Geneviève, and had a number of the varietals, and every one of them liked every wine.
Wow.
So if you, as the winemaker, here you get your grapes, you love your grapes, you can treat them exactly like you want.
So
And
we'll have to do another show with the barrels then.
oh,
We'll have to do
I
another
would,
show with the barrels and the toys.
Oh.
Dylan, it's not what you were thinking. I know you're disappointed, but it's still great. So now, Susan, because our friends are probably going to dinner now, a party around the world, I'd like you to send the final message to the world. What would be your absolute last big comments to everyone?
I wish that you take advantage of every day in whatever level, whatever degree, wherever you are, and find something from nature, a flower, a leaf, a bouquet, and you put it on your table, and you take whatever beautiful food you come across, and you appreciate it, and you say, what can I do with this that will be enjoyable and enhance this? And then you take a glass of wine and use this gathering of people, food, wine, and celebrate the day.
Magnificently said. Susan, thank you for being with us today. Congratulations for an amazing 4 decades of art and many projects as an entrepreneur. So you've been a great inspiration. Merci beaucoup.
Oh, merci beaucoup. Magnifique.
Magnifique.